Please welcome David Oldham as he comes to bring us his constitutional moment.
Thank you very much. So I forget to do this every time I get up here, but I would like to encourage you all to go to our website, constitutionalgrounds.com. We do not sell coffee, but we believe that it is upon the ground, the solid rock of the Constitution, that we need to be fighting, and that you know how to do that? Yeah. Okay. It is the solid rock of the Constitution. That is the grounding for America and for our society. We talked about that in the past. It's been interesting, the conversation that's been going on tonight, and especially what you were saying, Mrs. Banks, because I saw an online poll the other day, and yeah, and this was out in Tahlequah, and let's go right here. And what I wanted to do was help us understand the nature of the problem. Now, Ryan Walters is running for state superintendent of schools, right? And he came out a while back and said that he was proposing that Oklahoma stop accepting federal funds, just carte blanche. We just do not accept federal funds anymore. Is that a good thing? Okay. Well, your public school people can't see beyond their nose or their weekly paycheck, and so they can't see all of this, or maybe they approve of all of the strings and all of the things that come from the federal government. And it gets worse when you start to apply the Constitution. Let's just have a quick history moment. How many of us remember when the Department of Education became the monstrosity it is today? Who remembers that year? It was 1978. Before that, it did not exist. Not as it was just an advisory board to the president. But then all of a sudden, Jimmy Carter got in there and he got Congress to pass it and make it a behemoth. So as we're going to talk, is there anybody in the room that does not understand that the Federal Department of Education is 100% unconstitutional? Is everybody familiar with that, or do I want to go through it? Is there anybody who would like me to go through real quick how it's unconstitutional? Okay, I see a couple heads nodding. So what's that? Well, most every agency. Not every, but most. But here's what I wanted to point out and start out with is once we set that the Federal Department of Education and the funds they give to the states is illegal, their online poll has 87% wanting that federal money, that illegal federal money, to keep coming. That's what this online poll is saying. And they're attacking Ryan Walters, and they say, do you approve or oppose what he has proposed? And absolutely oppose Ryan Walters' suggestion of doing away with federal funding is 87%. It's 88.5% when you put in the uncertains. There's only 9.9%, 10% of the population that is absolutely behind Ryan Walters in Cherokee County as readers of the Tahlequah Daily Press and responding to this post. So for the heads that nodded, let's just go through this. We'll come back to the other thing in a minute. But the powers not delegated to to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That's the 10th Amendment. Now, the 10th Amendment was put in there because the Anti-Federalists were concerned that the simple wording of the Constitution was not going to be specific enough, okay? And so when James Madison came around, because he didn't start out as a fan of a Bill of Rights, but he ended up writing the Bill of Rights, basically, and he proposed this, and this was to make sure that if a power has not been granted, positively granted to the federal government cannot do it. Okay? That's what that says. You know what? That's what it already said in the regular articles. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. So all lawmaking, all spending, all legislative powers are vested in a Congress. It's Article 1, Section 1, the very first words of the Constitution after the preamble. And then it goes on in Section 8, and it says, Congress shall have power to, and then it lists a bunch of things. In other words, there is positive, these are your powers. Now, they are not the only powers, as you will hear some supposed constitutionalists say, the only powers granted to Congress are in Article 1, Section 8. That is just not true. As the very last, we're going to look at in a minute, the last clause of Section 8 actually expresses that there are other powers within the rest of the Constitution. But Congress shall have power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, everything that was listed before, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States. So if a power is not granted within the Constitution somewhere, doesn't have to just be in Article 1, Section 8, but somewhere, it does not exist. There is nowhere in the U.S. Constitution that the federal government may, one, supply charity funds. In other words, take from you by taxation to give to others who may be less advantaged. Okay? That does not exist. Number two, they don't have any power for education. Anything. They don't have the power to dictate what it can be. They don't have dictatorial powers in the first place, but they don't have policy-making powers. They don't have spending powers. They don't have any of those powers. And I dare you to read the Constitution, and please, if you can find it, come back and see me and let's have a chat, because I don't know where it's at. But finally, it is absolutely prohibited government, because back in the 5th Amendment, here we go to the Bill of Rights again, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So unless you are being directly compensated, you cannot have your money taken from you, because money is property. That is the nutshell. They have no power. So what we have is, when we go back here to our poll, we have 87% of the respondents. Some of those will be Republicans, okay? A big chunk of them will be Republicans, but remember, this is Cherokee County, and it is heavily Democrat. But 87% of that population wants lawlessness. They don't care that the law and the reasoning for it has already been set. They don't care. They want what they want, and they're going to vote that way. So when we frame our going out to the door and so forth, we've got to realize that's who we're going up against, and a lot of them are carrying an R behind their name. So that's the nature of the problem. One last thing real fast, and that is this weekend, starting Saturday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern, is a vaccine awareness, safety awareness marathon. 24 hours. Friends from Connecticut are putting it on. It's for We the Patriots USA. They are doing great work going out and actually fighting the battles in the courts to make sure that our rights as they currently exist in the courts, recognize them, are upheld. And they've been fighting all around the country. They've just picked up a new client who works for the Golden State Warriors, who has been relieved of his position because he wouldn't take the vaccine. And so they're fighting for him. And so I will be speaking at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I'll be on there for a half an hour, but if you recognize some of the names, Paulie Tommy, who did the movie Vaxxed, Sheila Ely, who is in the movie Vaxxed as well, is in here. There's Brian Hooker. Go to any of your Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, look for We the Patriots USA, and they will be able to, you'll be able to check it out, and it'll be running live for 24 hours.
Giving you the hook.
All right.
Thank you, David. Isn't that awesome? I love to listen to him talk.